Good morning. This is VirtualPBX-admin training. Just making sure everything is broadcasting properly and give people time to show up if they are so inclined. The training will last approximately an hour and a half, sometimes a little bit longer depending on load times. We do record all of our trainings. They're here on our YouTube channel, so you can always go back and look at our previous training, or if you can't stay for the entire time, come back and view this training. If you have questions about a particular feature, feel free to make use of YouTube's chat feature, and I'll try to address the question at that time. There are some limitations on the streaming software I'm using, most notably on some pull downs. I'll try to highlight that or mention that so that way you understand why I'm not showing a pull down at the time when I get to it. But beyond that, let's go ahead and get started on our page here. We have the dash login page, which is at dash.virtualpbx.com. For most people, I do recommend bookmarking the page, especially if you are a system admin. That would be especially important. To log in, we do need 3 pieces of information: your email address, your password, and then the account name, right? Typically your company name. Now, for some reason, you don't remember your password. Down here to the bottom right is your forgot your info link, right? It's just above the sign-in bar. If you click on that, it flips it over. We still need your email address, right? That's your unique identifier for your user. And then we have 2 fields down here. We need one of these 2. We don't need both, right? So either the account name or a phone number that is on the account. And that means one of your customer-facing phone numbers. Right? Then you click on reset password, and the system will send an email. Right? It's going to have a link in the email that gets you logged into your user page, and that will allow you to change your password. That's all it's going to allow you to do. Once you've done that, it'll log you back out, bring you back here to the login page. And the main purpose there is twofold, right? One, help you retype your password, to help you get that muscle memory, right? But most importantly, it's the remember me box. And so we'll click on sign in. Now I'm using a test account. So I've been logged into this account several times. So when I log in, it's taking me right here to the dashboard page. If it's your first time logging in, then the system will actually start you off on your user page, which you can get there by clicking up on your name up the top of the page. Right, so like your password, you can change your password here at any time, etc. Now, for your system admins, right, you have an account section over here on the left. That's where you would change like your system time zone. Now, on your accounts, right, so you have an account. I have an account and user section here. On your accounts, you're gonna have a live account. You'll have a billing section underneath where it says user. That's where you would see things like your service plan. You could see previous invoices. You could update your credit card information. You could also set who the billing contact is. The billing contact basically controls the account, right? They approve upgrades, cancellation, port outs, etc. So you can click on the contact and edit that if you need be. Now, that first time you log in, the dash wizard, right, has pop-ups telling you what things are and how to navigate. Once you're done on this page, or more specifically on your user page, right, over here to the right, just click on the close box, and then you'll see the dashboard page. Now again, that first login, Dash Wizard is still gonna have pop-ups, especially here on the dashboard page, on the users tab, and on the groups tab. Now up here at the top, right, you always have your name, right? You can click on that, get back to that account page that we were just looking at. For the majority of you, to the right of your name, you'll have a D&D toggle. Right? D&D standing for Do Not Disturb. It's defaulted to off. Right? If you click on it, it'll turn mostly white, letting you know it's on. Right? And that just means you're not going to be offered calls to your user. Now, the reason I don't have it is because my user is part of an ACD queue, right? ACD stands for automatic call distribution. The ACD queue feature and the do not disturb feature do not work well together. So once a user is assigned to be a member of the queues, they lose the D&D toggle automatically. All right, then we have the little question mark icon, right? Help icon. You will have at least 3 of these, no matter what. Right, the optional one is a web phone, but we'll get to that shortly. So over here, we got chat with us. This opens up a chat window. Basically, typically it's to the bottom right of your browser. That allows you to chat with a support staff member who will then kind of help you with whatever feature you're working with. Learn more. This opens up a new tab and takes you to our support pages. So you can see our various support guides. Some of them include videos. Almost all of them have screenshots of the UI, so you know what to look for. The online store, this takes you to store.virtualpbx.com. Opens up a new tab, so you can buy things like a VoIP phone, etc. And then the web phone. Again, this one will only show up after you've added a web phone to your user. Typically the next time you log in, although that might require clearing your cache and cookies for it to properly show up. But once this is here, it opens up a new tab and takes you to webphone.virtualpbx.net. It will ask you to log into that page, which just uses your Dash credentials. And the web phone, it allows you to use Chrome or Firefox on a computer to make and receive calls. Right, so it's a kind of VoIP phone. Next up, we got the 3 horizontal line icon, sometimes referred to as a hamburger icon or a menu icon. This takes you to other Dash features. Now, we are currently on the dashboard, which is where we'll be for most of the training. The last half hour-ish is on these other features. And then we have the logout icon here. Now, here in the middle, right, we have, okay, actually, here, let's go on the left, right? These are different Dash features, which we'll be getting to, and we're just going to work our way down. Here in the middle, you have a snapshot of your current system status, right? So I have 24 users, right? So these are people who make and receive calls. I have 33 33 devices, and then there's a breakdown. So first up is soft phone, software application that uses your internet connection to make and receive calls, the VoIP device. Right, this will include the VirtualPBX soft phone app or any third-party soft phones you may have, right? Just combines them all in one bucket. Cell phone, pretty self-explanatory. Web phone, that Chrome or Firefox device. SIP phone, this is a physical piece of hardware, right? So a phone that sits on your desk has an Ethernet cable typically, or Ethernet port, right? So you can connect you're connected to your network to get on the internet, right? But then other than that, for the most part, acts like a normal phone. You pick it up, you dial a phone number, you connect to the other person. Now, just so you know, SIP is a kind of VoIP device, right? So all of our devices or VoIP devices on Dash are SIP, right? They make use of that particular protocol. There are other protocols in use in the world when it comes to VoIP devices. So when you're shopping, you want to make sure you're looking for a SIP device. All right, unregistered devices, I have 2, and that's in reference to my SIP phone. So it's saying 2 of my 5 are not registered. That means we can't send calls to that device. Right? The system can't tell you why. It just says, hey, they're not connected. And they would, on the devices page, for instance, they would show up as red. Now, that could be a phone's not plugged in, right? Or someone's not logged into their soft phone. That could be they're having an internet outage at their location. Could be that there's a router setting that got messed up. Next up, we have total numbers. I have 36 phone numbers. Right, these are customer-facing phone numbers. Now, your plans include anywhere from about 1 to 15, depending on your plan. So I'm paying an overage per number. For the specifics of how many phone numbers are on your plan and what kind of overage you might encounter, I encourage you to talk to our account services team. If you just signed up, you could just check on the pricing page. It will have what the phone numbers, how many are included, and what the overage is. So now I've got a breakdown here of assigned numbers and spare numbers. Assigned numbers means I'm using it. Right? Someone can call those numbers and potentially speak to someone or leave a voicemail, right? Be sending a fax, joining a conference. Spare number counts towards my allotment. I'm just not currently using it. Right? Maybe I'm going to be expanding into a new market, right? So with a storefront, and I wanted to get a local phone number so that way I can start printing, getting my marketing materials ready, getting it up on the website, etc. Or it could be I had a promotion running and that promotion ended. So like in the United States, you might have had a 4th of July promotion running. That's long gone now. So I don't need calls on this number. Let me just put it as unassigned. So now I'm not getting calls for a promotion that's no longer in effect. Next breakdown here, I have USDID and US toll-free. US toll-free is US Canada toll-free. Right? That's an 1-800 number, an 888 number, 877, currently all the way down to 833. USDID just means a US local number. Right? So if you want a number in San Jose, California, it would be in here. Right? So would a number in Elmira, New York, would still be a USDID. You can have international numbers on your account if you are so inclined. If you wish to acquire one, you need to email our porting team, and that's porting@virtualpbx.com, and they'll need to know the city and country that you're interested in. They'll let you know if we can get numbers from that specific area and if there's any additional requirements. All right, that's going to vary depending on the country. All right, conference bridges, I have 3, and that just means I have enabled the conference user feature on 3 of my users, meaning I have 3 staff members who can host or moderate a conference. Over here to the top right, I have my main numbers. I've got 5 of them listed here. These numbers all behave in the same fashion. They're all going to the same location. They all have the same main greeting. Down here, my conference number, you can have multiple conference room numbers if you wish, but they're all going to the same spot. Once you go to the conference room, right, dial in, right, the system will ask you for your conference room number and the PIN number. The fax box number, this is your inbound fax number. You can have the one main fax box number. You can set up fax boxes on individual users and they can have their own phone numbers there if you're so inclined. The company directory, this downloads a CSV file. It has your users, like their names, their devices, their extension number, etc. The soft phone directory, this is for use with the VirtualPBX desktop soft phone application. This allows you to download this file and then upload it to your soft phone app on your computer, and allows you to see the status of the other soft phones on your account, right? So if my co-worker Linda is on a call on her soft phone, I'll see it on my soft phone, so I know not to call her right now. The next up, we have the store discount code. Just for being a Dash customer, you get a discount code for use in our online store. That's store.virtualpbx.com. And then we have the account realm. This is unique to each account. You use this to program a third-party application, soft phone, right? It's one of the 3 pieces of information you need. The other thing it's used for is to send a fax out. So on Dash, to send a fax out, you don't need to log into Dash at all. What you need to do is create an email like you normally do, right? So you're going to email Cousin Bob, but instead of putting Bob's email address, in the to field, you put the plus sign, the number 1, the area code and phone number you're faxing to, the @ symbol, and then your account realm. Then you just need to attach a PDF or TIFF and click send, right? So the system looks at the to field, the from field, and the attachments. Only 1 attachment per email will be sent out. So you want to make sure you don't have any like signature files or anything like that. Again, make sure it is a PDF or TIFF file. Okay, up here along the top, we have our caller ID here. This is your main company caller ID. Now this pull down won't work, but you can select any of your main numbers, right? So these 5 phone numbers over here, I can choose any one of them. You have the company caller ID name or CNAME. This is optional. You can include up to 15 characters, including spaces or special characters here in the box to the right. And then the system wants or requires you to enter in your company emergency information or E911. It wants a North American address, and then you click Save Changes. Now, The company caller ID number, right? This becomes your default number for VoIP phones, right? When they make outbound calls, it becomes the default number for a couple of things as well, which I'll try to mention as we get to it. Likewise, this address becomes the default address that the system would send out if anyone picks up a VoIP phone and dials 911. Now, each of your phone numbers can have its own E911 address, and you can assign these specific phone numbers to your VoIP devices specifically for 911 purposes, right? And I'll get to that when we get to the devices. Now, for the company caller ID name, right, this is optional. 15 characters, including spaces and special characters. When you click Save Changes, we transmit this information to the other carriers who support CNAM. It takes them about 3 business days to update their servers. Unfortunately, not every carrier supports CNAM, so it's possible when you make an outbound call that your call can route through a carrier that doesn't support CNAM. If that happens, your CNAM information, right, your company name, doesn't get to your destination. Right, the phone number always goes through, but not the CNAM information. The other caveat is with cell phone companies, or specifically when you make calls to cell phones. Right, the cell phone carriers, they control what shows up on the cell phones on their networks. Right, so they're the ones who put spam or telemarketer. For many of them, they charge their subscribers an extra fee in order to have company name information show up on their inbound calls. When I looked at this a couple years ago, my carrier, they wanted $10 a month for this feature. They get enough of my money, so I said, no, I don't need it. You know, if it was like $2 or $3, sure, not a big deal. So that means oftentimes when you're calling cell phones, right, your company name information may not show up. So something to be aware of. Hold music. This is your company hold music. What this means is when a call comes into a user on their VoIP device, they press hold on it. That's when this file will play. And that means you can upload your own music. Now, Dash will play back MP3 and WAV files. You want to make sure they're recorded in mono, not in stereo, and that they're under 1 megabyte in size. But you would just click on Browse to find the file on your computer, click the up arrow icon, it'll upload, and then save changes. This will become the default hold music for all of your users, right? So whenever they press hold on their phone. Right, hours is actually part of main number. So let's just get to main number. Up here at the top, you got your main company numbers. You see the 5 I have already here. If I decide not to use one any longer, I can just click unassign. Now, that number is not deleted from my account, right? It's now a spare number, so I can use it someplace else. If you want to add numbers, you have 2 options, generally speaking. You have first up is add from spare numbers, right? This means the numbers you already have on your account, right? This allows you to reuse a number. So I can click on the box here and then add selected. It would add the number right to where I want it. The other option is to buy numbers. Now, let's say you only have 1 number on your account and your account includes 15 phone numbers. You're not going to be charged for adding a second phone number, right? That's just what the person who designed this decided to use in terms of adding a number to the account, right? Because it was possible that you could be charged if you're going over your plan allotment. So that's why they didn't want to use the word add. All right, so by numbers, you have your option of local and toll-free. Toll-free, you choose the toll-free prefix you want to work with. You click search. It will give you a list at some point. There we go. You can scroll down and see longer. Click add next to any number you want. You can add multiple if you want, right? So I can have like 5 numbers here if I wanted to, right? The cart number will increase. It will show the numbers here. You can delete it if you change your mind. But if you're happy with that number, you just click on buy numbers. So this list that was just showing is a dynamic list, meaning I'm actually competing with other people in real time. So you want to make sure you complete the process right away versus going off to lunch partway through. We see now I've added the number here. If I go local, slightly different in that you need to know the area code. Now, when you do a search for an area code, you can sometimes get this message here, which is basically saying this area code is exhausted, right? And that just means there's no more numbers available or readily available. In this case, you'd probably want to double check with Google if you don't already know if that particular area code has what's called an overlay, meaning there's at least one other area code that has the same geographic footprint as the area code you're originally looking for. This is fairly common in your major metropolitan areas. So in that case, you would click up here where it says go back to search. And in the case of 310, that's Southern California, LA, right? I know that 424 is an overlay for 310. So I do a search and I see that there's plenty of 424 numbers, and I can click add next to and simply add to my account. All right, now you see a little gear icon here to the far right. This allows you to set up the caller ID for each of these phone numbers, meaning you can set up the outbound CNAM information, and then you can turn on the ability to accept inbound CNAM information, right? So that way the names would show up on your staff members' phones. E911, again, each phone number can have its own E911 address, and that way you can assign it to your individual VoIP devices. Prepend is a VoIP feature. This allows you to put text in front of the caller ID that shows up on your VoIP phones, right? Gives you a heads up to your staff members. Now, if you don't want the numbers, let's decide, oh, I don't want these numbers right here after all, right? I click unassign. So now I'm down to 4 main numbers. All right, next up, we have office hours strategy. You start off on 24-hour open office, meaning your system is available to take calls, right? It's not going to ring busy. Oh, but then you have custom office hours. If you choose this, then for each day of the week that you're open, put a check mark in front of that day. And then in these boxes here to the right, you set up your open hours in 24-hour or military time. Down here at the bottom, there's a little check box here to say, hey, are you closed for lunch? That means your system goes into lunch automatically at the time you set in these boxes here to the right. And then any changes you make here, click on Save Changes, which might be cut off on YouTube, so I apologize. And then we have office holidays. So first thing, are you closed for holidays? If you are, put a check mark in the box. Then over here to the right, you have the option to add holidays. There we go. If you click on it, you have single day, date range, and advanced. Clicking on any one of those will create a new row. So then you first give it a name, right? Like New Year's Day. You select the month and the date. You click on Save Changes. The date range is like I have here for Christmas break, right? So give it a name, start date, end date, Save Changes. Notice there's no year indicator. So as a safety precaution, we recommend not having a date range that includes New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. Right? You can have one that, a date range that ends on New Year's Eve and then have another date range start on New Year's Day, for example. And then advanced is like I have here for Thanksgiving. You give it a name, you choose the month, and then the second pull down, you have 1st through 5th, as well as last, and then the day of the week. So 3rd Thursday, click on Save Changes. And then we have the major thing here is incoming call handling. So for my 4 remaining main numbers, how do I want the system to handle the call? Notice I have tabs here, right? I have open hours, I have my after hours, and then I have my holidays, right? So how am I handling calls during these times, or in the case of holidays, these dates? And then you have the same basic options. So call comes in, goes to the virtual receptionist. This is a link, which when we click on it, will open up a big old box here. On the left, you have your main menu, right? These are what people, right, single digits people press on their phone to navigate through your phone system. Down here, you click on Add Route to give a new menu option. Now, this first pull down, you have 0 through 9, plus the star key and the default action. The second pull down are things on your account that you've already created, right? So you'd want to have users or groups or whatever, etc., created first before you get to this point. The smart PBX directory, right? The dial by name directory. Users, that means a menu option goes to a specific person. We'll scroll down. Call queues, this is an add-on feature, right, for call center features. So you may not have these. Groups are an included feature, so you can have these without any additional cost. These are typically departments. Groups and queues are somewhat related. Essentially, queues are an advanced version of groups in some respects. You can send a menu option to a specific device, right? So a specific phone. Downside of that is if that phone doesn't have its own built-in voicemail, like most VoIP phones don't have their own built-in voicemail box typically. So the person calling in can just press the menu option and just keep ringing, right? If no one picks up until they hang up. We scroll down, you've got voicemail boxes, right? So press the menu option to leave a message. Media file means you can press the menu option to have a media file play, right? A greeting message. Typically would be used for like hours of operation or directions. The downside of this is when the media file stops playing, the call ends. And then advanced call flows is if you have any of those available, which not super common. All right, next up, we have your greeting options over here to the right. And these are your various greeting creation methods. First up is text-to-speech, meaning you type in a greeting here, you click update, then save changes. You can include or type up to 250 characters, not words, right? Characters. It does not count spaces. I have gone over 250 characters before, but 250 is consistent. Now, once you click update, save, and save changes for text-to-speech, the system creates the file name for you. It would call, in this case, if I made one here, it would be my main, right? Open hours, menu, and then text-to-speech, TTS, right? If I did say, so I create one, right? I call in, I listen to it, I'm like, oh, that doesn't sound right. I come back in and I edit it. I click update, save, and save changes. Now I have two files called main open hours menu TTS. So my recommendation is if you're making use of the text-to-speech greetings, when you create one, go over here to the greetings tab. It's grayed out, but you should be able to see it still on YouTube. Change the name. Whether it's you're calling it main greeting 1 versus main greeting 2, because for any pull down menu that for the greetings, you're not going to be able to easily tell between one main open hours menu TTS versus the other. And you could also use that to create like a text-to-speech like voicemail greeting. Right? You just create it here, click update, save changes, change the name, and make a new one. Right, you can upload your own file. .wav.mp3 recorded in mono under 1 megabyte. Just click on, give it a name, choose file. It'll give you the option to upload. Then you click update, save, and save changes. You can choose from an existing recording, right? So this would be that pull down, right? So you can see all your various recordings. You can record it over the phone. Now, it starts off by saying, pick a phone, register to the account. What that means is pick up a VoIP phone, right? That's a security feature. Actually, I should probably change these back to their normal. Now, if you want to say use a cell phone or landline, then under settings, this one here, allow outside recording, you'd want to turn that to on. Now you can call in with this from a cell phone or a landline and change your main greeting. Now, you still need this PIN number. PIN number is going to be unique for each account and for each time of day, right? So this PIN number only works during my open hours, right? So if I call after hours, say at 8 p.m., and I try to enter this PIN number, it won't work. right? The system will tell me invalid entry. One thing to keep in mind about the recording over the phone. Can't talk right now. If you have, so when you first start up, right, the system, if you call in, will tell you that there's no greeting for this menu and prompt you for the PIN number. But let's say you put a greeting in place, right? You did a text-to-speech just to get going, and some of your customers complained that it sounded weird, or right, they weren't sure they were calling the right place because they didn't hear your voice. Simple solution: call in and record it with your voice. In that scenario, right? So you have a text-to-speech greeting in place, right? The system isn't going to prompt you for the PIN number. You can still enter the PIN number, and the system will recognize what it is and then guide you through recording over the phone. The system doesn't give you a chance to change the name of the greeting or give it a new name at all. It just says, oh, there's a greeting here. You're overwriting it, right? So greeting A is in place. You call in, record over the phone. Greeting A, file name is the same. The content was just replaced. And that's mostly an issue during the holidays. Last up, we have professional recording services. When you click order, this will open up a new tab and take you to app recordings, where you can order a greeting from one of their voice actors and actresses. They have like 100. They deliver to you via email, right? They charge separately, right? Or they handle their own billing. It's not through us. And then once you get the file, you would just upload your own file. All right, settings. These first two I explain together. At least it makes more sense to me to explain them together. So you have number of retries on misdial, which basically is how many times the inbound caller can make a mistake. And then you have dialing timeout, which is how much time the system waits after it hears a button press before it assumes the person is done, right? So for entering extensions. So call comes in, right? They hear the main greeting and say they press option 7, right? Not currently one of my main menu options. It's not an extension number. But after that initial press of 7, right, the system waits to a count of 5 to make sure that they're not going to enter additional digits for a 3 or 4 digit extension number. After that count of 5, the system says, okay, 7 is not a menu option, 7 is not an extension. Checks here, says, oh, they get 1 retry. So now the main greeting plays a second time. That inbound caller, say they press 9. Again, system seconds. It's not a menu option, not an extension. In this case, right, that's their last only retry. So now the system says, okay, what do I do next? Since I have a default action here, right, this one I added, the system would send the caller to that default action. In this case, the PBX directory. If I click X next to this and remove default action, in that case, the system would say, we did not recognize your entries, goodbye. And the reason you would not want to have a default action is to cut down on robodialers, right? A robodialer can come into your main number, hear your main greeting a bunch of times, and it gets transferred over to whatever default action, let's say voicemail box, and then leave whatever long, voicemail message, right? If you get rid of the default action, now you're saying, hey, caller, you need to be a person, right? You need to have fingers to be able to press a button to get somewhere. Robodialers can't do that. All right. Allow outside recording, again, to allow a cell phone or a landline to call in to record your main greeting. Allow dialing extensions. By default, this is on, and that just means if the inbound caller knows the extension number and they enter it, the system will transfer the call to that extension. If you turn it off, that means that your inbound callers can only press your menu options, right? Extension number, if they enter an extension number, it will be treated as an invalid entry. And then down here, we have to suppress the playing of the invalid entry message. If you don't want that message to play, right, i.e. we don't recognize your entries, goodbye, then you can turn this on. And then that message will no longer play. So if you make any changes to your main menu, your greetings, your settings, you need to click Save here. And then it takes you to incoming call handling. You need to click Save Changes here. Second option, this is designed primarily to be a live operator answer option, meaning ideally you're offering a call to a person or group of people so they have a chance to answer the call first. If they can't pick up, then the caller goes to the virtual receptionist. So this is a pull down. You have the directory, which I'm not sure why it's there. But again, typically you can either select a user, right, specific person, call queues, which could be many people, or groups, which again, typically many people. You could send it to a specific device, right? So that way that specific phone rings. It'll be, and it's going to default to 20 seconds. And if no one picks up, then it goes to the virtual receptionist. Now, we're still in open hours. So when I click on virtual receptionist here, it's that same options we were just looking at. Let's change it to after hours. So here, I already have it set up where call comes in, it rings to Aaron. If Aaron can't pick up after hours, then it goes to my virtual receptionist. And you see here, I only have a default action. I would have a different greeting play. I have different settings. All right, third option, like I have here for holidays. Now, this first pull down, you can select, again, users, groups, devices. You can have it go to a media file as well, right? And then whatever you select first, then it goes to the second option is the voicemail box you select, right? Now, the extra option here that I have already selected is at the very bottom, right? Skip to voicemail, which basically means call comes in, send to this specific voicemail box, right? This is, again, this is my holiday settings. Often I see this also on like seasonal businesses. So like tax preparers, if that's their only business or the only reason they have an account with us, right? They've probably already sent everything, skipped to voicemail. Small 1 or 2 person shop where they decide, hey, we're going on vacation. It's time for Hawaii, right? They would do that there. Now, in some cases, and most of you only have these 3 options. This fourth option down here, this only comes up if you have what's called an advanced call flow, meaning our engineering team created an advanced call flow for you for a specific reason, or you have multiple auto attendants and one of those auto attendants or more is set up to be available in main menu. Right? If you don't have any of those, it would not show up as an option. Main conference number, again, you can add from spare by new because you can have multiple conference numbers if you want. Over here, you have custom greeting. This is a text-to-speech greeting, so you can click enable. Maybe, here we go. Right, type in what you wanted to say and click on save. Even without that, the system says welcome to the conference and then prompts the inbound caller to enter the conference room number and the PIN number, which you would have, or your staff members would have to provide. Main fax box number, you can only have the one, which is why I don't have the option to add from spare or buy new. I also have the option to edit the fax box. The inbound notifications, this is the email. You enter in the box to the right an email address. Right, so that means this person or this email address will get an email notification every time a fax comes through. Now, if someone dials your fax box number, say from their cell phone, right, they get fax tones and hangs up, this email address is going to get an email saying there was a failed fax attempt. So if you're getting those, one, check the email because sometimes it'll say wireless caller, in which case, it's a cell phone call to your fax box was a legitimate fax attempt, right? But the other reason to pay attention to those emails is it'll give you the date, the time, and the phone number involved. You can check in your call log for that phone number, see that it hit your fax number. You can see how long it connected, right? If it connected for under 45 seconds, that wasn't even enough time to transmit a page. Additionally, if you recognize the number or it's from, from someone that you're expecting a fax from, then you can reach out to them and say, hey, it didn't get through. Maybe their fax machine might have had additional details. Email permissions. This is designed to put your company's email domain. So that way everyone can send a fax out from their email without having to be a dash user. And then click on Save Changes. All right, auto attendance. This is a plan-specific feature, meaning you can, this is available on some plans and not others. A couple use cases. One would be for advanced call flows where you would say you want submenuing, right? So 1 for English, 2 for Spanish as main menu options under your virtual receptionist. You would come here, or you would actually have been here first, and create a Spanish auto attendant and an English auto attendant. They have their own greetings in the appropriate language. Their menu options would go to either English or Spanish speaking staff members, for example. The other reason for multiple auto attendants is if you have multiple businesses that you own. Each of those businesses has their own main number, their own main greeting, but you have the same staff members answering calls for each of them. Right, that way you don't have to have a separate account for each business, right, to kind of make invoicing easier, etc. Now, creating an attendant is very easy. Up here at the top, you click on Add Attendant. You give it a name and an extension number. The extension number is for your staff. It's not expected that your users would ever, or your customers would ever know the extension numbers of your attendants. And the advantage of this is that it allows your staff members to transfer calls from one business to the other if they need to. Right? But then you click on Create Attendant. Once an attendant is created, if you click on its name, you have the option to delete right down here. But over here in the middle, you see this one is unavailable in main menu. That means it's a standalone attendant, right? i.e. separate business. If I click on this, now it says available in main menu, meaning it's a submenu option. Right, it will be an option on some other things for like next action in groups, for example. Right, you would make save changes if you made that change. You notice here for Spanish, for instance, I have it available in main menu because it would be for that submenu example. Auto attendants can have their own phone numbers. You can have add for spare, buy new, so they can have multiple. And you have the little year icon here, so you can update the caller ID, E911 and prepend, etc. Attendants can have multiple extensions if you want them to. You can also swap the extension number. If you do that, I recommend click on Add Extension. Oops. Right, enter the new extension number that you want it to have. Right, then Save Changes. Right, so then you have a little icon letting you know there's multiple extensions here. You click on the extension box again, and then click on Assign the original extension. Click on Save Changes. And then you have the little wrench icon here under Settings. Once it loads, there we go. I have open hours, after hours, and holidays, right? Those times match what you already set up under the main menu. Or rather the main numbers, excuse me, right? So your secondary businesses or other businesses have to have the same hours of operation as your primary. If for some reason you have a business that's 24/7 and one that's Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, and you want them on the same account, you'd need to talk to our account services team. It's possible we can do a custom build for you to allow that to happen. That limits your options in terms of upgrading or updating things like the greetings, for example. But if that's not possible or ends up not being what exactly you want to do, they may also be able to give you a discount on having 2 separate accounts. All right, next up is devices. Right, shows your devices on your account. Red means not registered, right? So we can't send a call to it. Black means you've turned it off right here in the UI, right, under enable. And then green means we can send a call to it, right? Means it's registered. Now up at the top, you can click on add device. First up is SIP phone. You have these manufacturers to choose from. Some of them have a lot of models. Some of them don't. But you'd want to find the manufacturer, the model of your phone, then you need to give it a name, right? Bob's phone or break room phone. And then you need the MAC address. This is unique to each device. Often it's a sticker on the back of the device towards the bottom. Or if it's plugged in, usually under its status settings, you can find the MAC address. You would enter it here. You click on create device. And then the only other thing you need to do in terms of the dashboard is assign it to a specific user. Now, you're not done. You have to log into that phone's web user interface. Basically, you get the IP address of the phone, enter that into your address bar of your browser. That computer and that phone need to be on the same network, right? Generally speaking, or at least I have not encountered a situation where, let's say, you're in Philadelphia and you're working on a phone in Chicago, right? You're not going to be able to log into that phone's web user interface, at least by default. You might have done things in advance to set it up, possibly. That's a little beyond what we get into. All right, but then you need to enter in a URL to basically tell the, hey, go here to grab your config file. For the specifics of that, under our support pages, you want to look for the auto provisioning phones document. You can just do a search for auto provisioning. It should come up right away. That document will have the screenshots of the various manufacturers' user interface, the proper syntax for that URL, and in some cases, settings to double check. But basically what happens is you enter all that information in, the phone gets on the internet, goes to that URL, grabs the config file, right? Downloads it. It's going to reboot usually 2 to 3 times. And then when it's done, if everything's correct, it will come up as a green device. Right. Cell phone and landline are basically the same, whereas you give it a name, right? So Angela's phone. And then in the number field, you put +1 area code and phone number. No dashes, no parentheses, no spaces. And then you click on create device. Now, let me go down here. I'm going to click on the little wrench icon here. So this is the proper format. I'm going to go to advanced options. This is the default settings for any cell phone or landline that are added to Dash account. So what happens is, let's say call comes in, right? And then goes out to your cell phone. Your cell phone rings. You click answer. Now you're going to hear a message from the system saying, this is a forwarded call. Please press 1. When you press 1, you're telling the system, yes, you are there, and yes, you want to take this call. That doesn't work for every situation, right? That works is great if it's an actual person answering the call, because you can press that 1 button. But let's say, for instance, you actually added a phone number to the account because as a device, because you actually wanted to go to an after-hours automated answering service. That automated answering service can't press 1 to accept the call. In that situation, this one here, you'd want to put a check mark in front of allow use of cell phone's voicemail. So now, when we send the call to that phone number, instead of saying, this is a forwarded call, press 1, right? We hear that pickup tone, the system connects the call right away. So now your automated answering service can handle the call. Now, if I did this on my actual cell phone, what could happen is my cell phone voicemail could pick up. When the Dash system hears that pickup tone, it connects a call, so that inbound call ends up on my personal cell phone's voicemail, not on my Dash voicemail. Some people want that, some people don't. Now, The other thing that sometimes comes up or that people may want to change is the second one here. Keep original caller ID. So by default, customer Mary calls into the system, goes through, gets to your cell phone. On your cell phone's display, you see customer Mary's phone number. You don't recognize it, and you're tired of all the political calls you're getting or the extended auto warranty calls. So you let it go to voicemail. Maybe you're not able to reconnect with customer Mary before she moved on to a competitor. So you can uncheck this, keep original caller ID, and in that case, when a call comes to you from customer Mary, instead of seeing Mary's phone number show up on your cell phone's display, you're going to see your main number. Let's go back to the dashboard real quick. Caller ID. This phone number you selected here, that's what would show up on your cell phone's display. So now, when the call comes to you, you're saying, oh, this is a work call or business call, right? This is worth me at least picking up. Right. Soft phone, on the devices page, when you add a soft phone, you only have the option to add a third-party soft phone, meaning you're not going to use the VirtualPBX soft phone application. Right, but then you would give it a name, you would copy the SIP username, click on the SIP password box so you can copy and paste that, do not change it. And then you need to copy and paste the realm. Those are the three pieces of information you need to program that third-party soft phone application. If you want to use the VirtualPBX soft phone app, you need to add the soft phone directly to the user, not on the devices page. Also, for any device, you have a little wrench icon here. For the VoIP devices, so for physical VoIP devices, so like a Cisco, you want G711A and G711U. And for most soft phones, third-party soft phones, the VirtualPBX soft phone should have Opus. The external caller ID, this would be the default outbound caller ID that this phone uses, this 408 number. But then you also have the emergency caller ID, which could be a different phone number. But then you see that I have this address associated with it. But I can select other numbers. So these are the only two phone numbers right now that have E911 addresses associated with them. But if I had more, I could choose from them. So that way, you have the right address for the location that that person is physically in. All right, Greetings tab. This shows your media files on the account, whether they're voicemail greeting, main greeting, or even hold music. They're all going to be here. Up here at the top, you can add, i.e. upload a new one. Right, give it a name, find the file on your computer, click Create Greeting, it'll upload it. But any greeting, you have the name, you have the source, right? Upload means you uploaded it. TTS means text to speech. Recorded means it was recorded over the phone. This column here, play, this allows you to play back the greeting file directly in your browser. This is like a month-old feature. Download, you can download the file, listen to it directly on your computer. And then edit, a little wrench icon, you can click on it, you can change the name, right, to something you can remember or easily identify, or delete it if you know you no longer need it. Groups is short for ring groups or hunt groups. Up here at the top, you click Add Group. You give it a name and an extension number. Then click and drag your staff members that you want in the group. Click on Create Group. Once a group is created, you can click on the name. You can change the name at any time. And then you also have group call attempts. This is how many times the system offers the call to your group members, right? i.e., if you have it set to 2, like I do here, that means like my staff members didn't answer the call the first time. The system offers that call to them a second time. The members box shows all my staff members and their ring setup. Now, along the top, I have timestamps. This last one you can edit. The default is 120 seconds, 2 minutes. Now, right now, this setup I have is called blast ringing or ring all, right? So everyone rings at the same time for the same amount of time. I have this big distribute button here. I can click on that. Now I'm ringing in this order, right? So Aaron's first. I can click and drag people around, click distribute again, and now I've changed the order. Likewise, these are sliders, so I can customize the time range. Oops. So I have more overlap if I wanted to. Now, your group members, they can take calls from their cell phones, their landlines, or their VoIP devices. System doesn't care. If they have multiple devices on their user, all of them will ring when a call comes in from the group at the same time. There's a user feature called follow me. Calls from the group ignore that feature. Just says, nope, ringing all the devices on this user. Now, your staff members can't log out of the group unless, they can remove themselves if they're a system admin, but otherwise they're in the group all the time. Their only option is the D&D toggle if they have it at the top of the page. Your ACD queues, by the way, can only accept calls right now with a VoIP device, right? So SIP phone, soft phone, or web phone. But they have control, right? They can log out of the queue, in and out of the queue. They can mark themselves away. So some differences there. Groups can have extensions and multiple extension numbers if you want them to. They can also have their own phone number or phone numbers, right? You can add from spare or buy new. Now, this phone number on groups, right? They're not an auto attendant phone number, nor are they a main number. So that means they don't have hours of operation. So their phone number is available 24/7. And then we have group features. Ring back. So when a call comes into a group, right, goes out to your users, when your users' devices start to ring, that ringing sound is transmitted back to your inbound caller. That's the ring back, right? So if you enable the ring back feature, what you're actually doing, it allows you to do is upload a file. So instead of hearing that ringing sound, the inbound caller can hear a media file. Essentially, a kind of like hold music. And then save changes. Now, if for some reason, let's say you only have it set to go to one user, and that user's phone doesn't ring, right? It doesn't provide that ring sound back to us, then the inbound caller hears silence, right? Because there's nothing for the system to replace. All right, next action, to me, the most important feature at least for groups, right? You click enable, and it's if no one answers the call, what do you want to do with the caller? You have a pull down here. You can send them back to your main menu. You can send them back to one of your advanced call flows, so one of your secondary attendants. You can send it to an ACD queue, specific device, a user, a group, or a different group, or voicemail box. Allow call forward. If you enable this, that means your users can make use of call forwarding, i.e. they're not going to be at their normal phone, so they're sending calls to, say, their cell phone. And then caller ID prepend, this is for your VoIP phone users. You can add additional text or numbers in front of the caller ID that shows up on their VoIP phone's display. Numbers starts you off on your numbers in use. This shows you where your numbers are or where they're going. It doesn't allow you to assign or unassigned phone numbers here. But you can also click on the gear icon for any phone number. So you can update the caller ID, E911, or prepend for any number. The spare numbers tab, this shows the numbers that you're not using right now. I obviously have quite a few. Now, up here at the top, pay attention to this. To get rid of a number, you need to click on the box in front of the number first. Like so. Now I have the option to delete up here. It says, are you sure? I said yes. Confirm the deletion. And now I have less phone numbers on my account. You can buy numbers here, right? Local or toll free. And that just adds new numbers as spare numbers. Port starts the port process. Basically, that means you're moving a number from one carrier to VirtualPBX. You give it a name. You choose local or toll free. Then it asks you to upload a copy of your bill within the last 30 days. The numbers that you want to port, the address associated with it, or at least that the carrier has on file for you, or for those numbers. It wants you can download a blank letter of agency and then upload a completed and signed letter of agency, or LOA. There's 4 checkboxes to check: email address field and preferred port date. The preferred port date needs to be in the future, right? You can't do it for the same day that you're submitting. And that's just a request. The carrier that currently has the phone number, they decide when the number comes through. We don't have any control over that. But then you click submit. You should get an email right away letting you know that you submitted the port request. And then by the next business day, you should get a second email from our porting team. That means an actual human has looked at the port request, letting you know that, yes, we're processing it. Now, local numbers can take anywhere, they average about 2 to 3 weeks. Toll-free numbers, typically 3 to 5 business days, and that presumes everything is correct. If there's any error, we get a relatively generic error message, like address mismatch or unauthorized user mismatch. The other carriers don't typically specify what exactly is wrong or what the correct information should be. In that case, you may have to talk to your other carrier to find what that information is. If for some reason you tried to submit and the port, like it didn't go through, you can also email your documents to porting@virtualpbx.com. All right, users, to show your users on the account. People with the little blue suit, those are your system admins, meaning they can do all the stuff we're talking about. The little gray persons are standard users. Up here at the top, click on add user. You fill out the form, right? First name, last name, you should probably have that. The email address used for login is unique for each user, right? So you cannot reuse an email address. You create the password for them. You can select the extension number. The system will obviously give you a suggestion, but you can enter in whatever you want. I do typically recommend 4-digit extensions just for growth purposes. Now, by default, every new user will be created with a voicemail box that's intrinsically tied to the user. You can choose to have them included in the user directory, and you can change your mind later. Now, this one here, send emails to an alternate address. So by default, this system will send emails to the email address used for login, right? Things like voicemail notifications or password resets. If for whatever reasons you wanted to send it someplace else, you put a check mark here and put in a different email address. And then lastly, the one I think that should be checked, send credentials to the user, right? So they'll get an email saying, hey, you've been added to the Dash account. Create user, that means just adding one person. Create user and add another means you have multiple people you need to add. Once a user is created, you can click on their name. Whoops. You can change their name. Right here, you can change their credentials, meaning their email address or their password. You also have the option here to send the password reset email to. Now remember, for your own password, you need to click your name at the top of the page, right? But for everyone else, you can click on their name here. You can change their voicemail box PIN number if for some reason they forgot and they're remote, right? So you're like, hey, let me change it to this. So now you can log in and they can change it over the phone. Here's your option to change or to send emails to an alternate address. And here's the option to change their directory status. Over here, this pull down allows you to change a user into an admin or an admin to a user. Time zone, this so you can set the correct time zone for the user so their voicemail timestamps are correct. Little flag here is the display language for the dashboard. Right, you have English, French, German, or Russian. Ringing timeout is the default amount of time that the system offers calls to their devices. In this case, and actually the default is 20 seconds. 20 seconds is plenty of time to send calls to a VoIP phone or a landline. to a cell phone, you probably, if they only have a cell phone, you probably want to change this to 30 to 45 seconds, right? In terms of how telecom works, right? Calls come in, go to a landline, right? That telecom goes, oh, the phone's right here, right? Just sounds, because they know exactly where the phone is, they send the call straight through. Call goes to wireless telecom. They say, hold on a second, we need to find the phone first, right? Ping cell phone towers, find you, then send the call through. That delay is why you would need longer time for the ringing timeout for a cell phone user. All right, the extension box, users can have multiple extensions if you want them to. Phone number box, users can have their own phone numbers if you want them to. They can have multiple. And again, these phone numbers work 24/7. Now, devices, you can add devices directly to the user, which I find to be more pleasant or efficient. I want to go over the soft phone specifically here. All right, starts the same, gives you a little warning message, going to give you the big box. But here at the bottom, it says use third-party application. If you click on that, now it says use VirtualPBX application, meaning you're going to use the VirtualPBX soft phone. So now you just need to give it a name. You click on create device, and you click on save changes here under Aaron's devices box. At that point, Aaron will get an email with the login information he needs to use the VirtualPBX soft phone app, because it uses its own credentials, right? Different than your Dash login information, as well as download links. So you can download the app and make use of it. The other big thing for devices is the web phone. The web phone uses your Dash login. So if you're going to add web phones to users, you might as well just add them directly to the user versus on the devices page. That way their login information is already set up. Next up, we have user features. So caller ID number only works for a user, or it's only available for a user that has their own phone number. When you turn it on, that means whatever phone number you select here, that becomes the outbound caller ID for that user's VoIP phone. The virtual text application is a new feature, as far as I know, available on all new plans. You turn it on, and then you select the phone number. Now, the phone number needs to be either a number on the user directly, or a main number, or a number on an auto attendant. Then you click on Save Changes. Aaron then would get an email welcoming him to Virtual Text, and then he can log in either on the website, virtualtext.app, or download the app to his phone, and then he can send and receive texts. Virtual Text also allows you to share numbers among staff members, so like your main numbers. So that way you have multiple people who can handle texts to and from customers. Voicemail box. This is your typical settings. Transcription is technically a plan-specific feature. And what it does is it listens to the voicemail and then tries to type it out as best as it can in the email notification that it sends out. Now, so by default, right, the system will attach a voicemail message to the email notification. The email notification includes like the date, the time, the phone numbers involved, the extension number. If you have transcription on your plan and enabled on that voicemail box, then it will include the transcription accounts there. There will also be an MP3 attachment that you can double click and listen to the voicemail or the voicemail message. Your voicemail boxes can hold up to 100 messages. After that, they are full and cannot hold any more. Right? They won't accept any more voicemail messages. Now, the default settings, you can log in and check your voicemail either via the user portal or over the phone. Right? And then you can delete your messages that way. If for some reason you have, people are continually not deleting their voicemail messages, and you're tired of people complaining about full mailboxes, you have this option here. Put a check mark there, and that means the system deletes the voicemail from the system after it sends out that email, right? So voicemail comes in, email is created, attaches voicemail message, sends it out. Then system goes back through, deletes voicemail message from the voicemail box. So now the voicemail box can't get full. downside or limitation is that means your users can only ever check voicemails via their email, right? There's no way to check it over the phone, no way to check it via the user portal. There'll be nothing there, right? So for some reason, they're not getting voice or email delivery, right? Voice, like the emails aren't getting to them. They may lose those voicemail messages. Right. Follow Me is a feature for users with multiple devices. When you click Enable, then you need to decide which phones you're making use of. You uncheck the box next to each phone. This is like groups, right? You got timestamps. You have the option to distribute. You can change the order. You can also change the durations. Fax box, you can choose to have users have their own fax box if you want them to. I recommend making sure that you use a phone number, because that way this person can then send and receive faxes. You do have the option to make use of an extension. However, that means this person can only ever receive faxes, and it's possible you're limiting who can send a fax to them, right? So some electronic fax services may not allow you to send faxes to an extension. Right? They only will send faxes to a phone number. Even with your analog fax machines, right? You're relying on the inbound person faxing to you to remember to include the extension. Right? They have to call your main number, hear the greeting, enter the extension number, then send fax. Conference Bridge, once you enable it as an admin, the only thing you really need to do is create a PIN number and click on Save Changes. Your users can update that PIN number on their user portal. Call forwarding, your staff members, right, your users can turn this off and on their own. As an admin, you can also enable failover remote. And this just means if the user's VoIP phone becomes unregistered and a call comes into them at that time, the system will automatically forward the call to the phone number you designate. Right? You choose desk phone or mobile, +1, area code and phone number, no parentheses, no dashes, no spaces, save changes. For your users, in terms of enabling, disabling call forwarding, they can do that under the user portal. They can also do that directly from their VoIP phone using feature codes. Customized recording. When you enable it, it first looks like this. Right? Then the system basically is asking you what kind of calls do you want to record. Right? Inbound internal means a dash call. Right? So my coworker Bob called. Do I want to record that? Yes or no? Right? Inbound external means a call coming in from a customer to this user. Right? Outbound internal means Aaron called Bob. Right? Coworker to coworker call. Right? Outbound external means Aaron called customer Mary. Music on hold, you can choose to have your individual users have their own hold music. Upload .wav, .mp3, recorded in mono under 1 megabyte. This would supersede the hold music that you uploaded on the dashboard page. So for instance, if you wanted your salespeople to have one set of hold music and say your tech support people to have a separate hold music, you could do so. Do not disturb means you're not receiving calls, or that you're having that user not receive calls. Hot desking is a VoIP feature basically with shared offices in mind, or like hybrid scheduling. For instance, you set this up with a hot desk ID of 4 digits. You click on Save Changes. Aaron comes into the office on Tuesday, sits down at desk number 1, picks up the phone at that desk, hits *11. That's the feature code to turn hot desking on that phone. It prompts him for his hot desk ID. It then tells him calls will now be sent to this device. For the rest of his workday, right, calls are coming to the phone at desk number 1 that he's sitting at. End of the day, picks up the handset, hits *12 to turn off hot desking. And his hot desk ID number. Let's say the next time he comes in the office is Friday. Someone's already sitting at desk number 1. He says hi to Bob. He sits down at desk number 4. Picks up the handset, *11, hot desk ID. Now he's getting calls at desk number 4. Voicemail boxes shows all your voicemail boxes. Anyone with an entry here in the third column, that was a voicemail box created with the user. If they don't have a name, that means like the main voicemail box was system generated, whereas, or if you create one up here at the top, you give it a name, voicemail box number, and a PIN number. You click on create voicemail box. Then you can click on the wrench icon here. Right, so this will let you to review, right, so what the PIN number is and the mailbox number, so if you need to check things over the phone. After you've created your own voicemail box, let's say you had to create one manually for your support team, then you would want to go to greeting and media. You either want to upload a file or choose one that's already on the system and under the media section, right? That's the default message file. The temporary is for your out of office or vacation message. So if you have something selected in temporary, it will supersede anything you select under the media file until you put temporary back to none. Recipients. Now, your user voicemail boxes already have a built-in recipient. But let's say we're still talking about that support voicemail box. Then you would want to click right here where it says add new recipient and then enter the email address, let's say of the support manager. You can click add to keep adding additional people, right? Additional email addresses. But once you're done, you click on save changes. And then options. So once you have a media file in place and you have a recipient in place, then you can click already set up. Down here, you have the options of are you deleting after notification and are you attaching emails or voicemails to emails. Advanced routing, this is where direct inward system access is, or DISA. This is actually not enabled on new signups, something you'd have to ask for with our services team. What this does, or what DISA allows you to do, is call in to the system from your cell phone or landline, log in over the phone, and then you'll hear dial tone, so then you can make an outbound call. And when you make that outbound call, it's not your cell phone number that's displayed, it's your main number. Now, you have two basic options in terms of how to access DISA once it's enabled. So let's click on here and enable the feature. And it defaults by creating a PIN number. If you leave it like this, that means you need to make it a menu option under your virtual receptionist or one of your auto attendants. That's not recommended because someone may accidentally figure that out and then take it as a challenge to find out what the PIN number is. So click on Edit Settings here. And then right down here at the bottom, add an extension. Now, for the extension number, you want to use one that's not part of your normal series, right? So this system started with extension 1000, right? So that's why I keep suggesting 1000, what is that, 20 or 26? So for DISA, I would not want to use an extension that starts with 1000 because someone can figure that out. So I just create a random extension number. I click on Save Changes. So now I call into my system, right? One of my phone numbers that goes to a virtual receptionist or to one of the auto attendants. I entered this extension number, right? Then the system will prompt me for the PIN number. I enter that, then I'll hear dial tone. So now I enter area code and phone number, make an outbound call, right? And instead of my cell phone showing up, right, it's this phone number under company caller ID. Now, the reason this is not enabled on new accounts right away, right, you have to ask for it, is because if someone figures everything out, they can make outbound calls on your account and you would not know about it right away. Probably not until your next invoice, which might be surprisingly high if they used a lot of minutes. So one way to figure that out, though, ahead of time would be under the call logs. We'll go to this month. So here you can see your call activity. Green arrow to the right, that means that's a call that came into the system. Yellow arrow to the left, that's an outbound call. And if you click on it, you can see, okay, Geo used his web phone here. So it's a legit call, right? I don't have to worry about that. For any of, let's see if we can find a longer call. See here on an inbound call, you can see this call came in and it was offered to several different devices. And in this case, call came in. I'm not sure how you have a blind transfer when it doesn't look like. Oh, I get it. Call came into this particular device and then was blind transferred out. Blind transfer would be a cold transfer. Now, little fire hydrant icon here. This will create an email for you to support@virtualpbx.com. It will include the technical details of the call. Please type in context, like what happened, what you experienced, whether that was, hey, no audio, my phone didn't actually ring, what have you. So that way we know exactly why you're reporting the call. Now, you can download any of these, right, for the week, the day, and it'll download a CSV file. The custom allows you to set your date range. The system will let you go back up to 12 months. So if you need your call log information for compliance reasons, I would recommend you do that at least once a month. If you have heavy call volume, you might have to break this down week by week. Our engineers can go back up to 18 months. After that, the call data is lost. Feature codes, I've alluded to a couple of these. These are ways for your VoIP phone users to access different Dash features directly from their VoIP device. All right, so that's all the dashboard. Blacklists. This allows you to create a list of phone numbers that you're blocking from reaching your system. You click Edit Blacklist here. You click Add to create a new list, or you can click on an existing list, right? You need to give it a name. And then you choose, are you blocking anonymous calls or not? That means if we don't get valid inbound caller ID and you turn this on, that means they're not getting through. Right? We have to get their actual phone number to show up. After that, you click on Add Number here. Put +1 area code and phone number. No parentheses, no dashes, no spaces. Keep clicking Add to add more numbers until you're done. And then you would click on Save. You go back to Settings. You make sure your list is over here on the right under Selected. And then you click Update. Now, every phone number that's on these three lists, they're getting blocked, right? They're getting busy tone. There's not a limit. So I could actually just have one list if I wanted versus having three separate ones. Faxes, this takes you to your fax manager. So you can see your inbound faxes. I don't know that I have too many. Being a test account, let's take a quick look. Oh, here we go. So you see the date, the time, the number it came from, number it was going to, number of pages. You can download the file. If you click on this, you can also remove it. Outbound faxes, same kind of process. You can see, oh, we had a failure here. So when you see a failure under the outbound fax tab, that means we had a problem communicating with the other phone number. All right, so you see the date, the time. You can download the file. You can click on this last icon here. Sometimes you can get additional information. Right? In this case, all we see is success is equals false, meaning we don't know. All right, then we got the email to fax log tab. Now this, when you see things here, that means the system had a problem processing the request itself. So we never actually dialed the other number. See the email address is involved, right? So you can see if they have the proper format or not. The date, the time, little eyeball icon here. And then in this case, no valid attachments. That means either there was no attachment, right? They click send before attaching the file, right? I think we've all been there. Or they included attachment that was not a PDF or a TIFF file, right? They sent a JPEG. All right, no valid attachment. Let's see what some of these others are real quick. Nope, all no valid attachment. All right. Number manager, this takes you back to our spare numbers page. Pretty straightforward. Reports is actually a plan-specific feature. This would actually take you to our advanced reporting page. So reports.virtualpbx.com allows you to create your own reports. If you're interested in this, please check out a separate demo we have on our YouTube channel. Just the advanced reporting demo. It's under our videos. And if that ends up something you want, then you need to talk to our account services team. Voicemails, this takes you to the voicemail manager, so you can get to any voicemail box on the account. You can see the messages here, the phone numbers. You can play it back, download it. As an admin, if you put a check mark, you can move it to a different voicemail box. Otherwise, you can change its status, even get rid of it if need be. ACD queues. ACD stands for automatic call distribution, right? It's a call center feature. We currently have two different kinds of queues. These the ones I'm showing here are standard queues. We also have pro queues. If you want to see an account can only have one or the other. It cannot have both. So if you want to see the pro queues, again, demo on our YouTube channel under videos, ACD queues pro demo. Now, in terms of creating a queue, queues are an upgrade off of existing plans. So it is possible you may need to upgrade your plan and then add the queues on top of it. So you'd want to talk to our account service team in that regard. In terms of creating a queue, you give it a name, right? And then a queue needs either a phone number or an extension. It cannot have both. Now, it can still be a menu option off of your virtual receptionist or your auto attendants, right? But in terms of extension or phone number, it gets one or the other. Queue routing strategy, unfortunately, the pull down doesn't work here. You have round robin, which will equalize out over time. Most idle, meaning whoever's been waiting the longest gets the next call. Least calls means the least amount of connected calls in the queue, right? Gets the next call. Least offered is a combination of offered and missed calls, right? So whoever has the lowest amount gets the next call that comes in. You have hold treatment, which basically means you can upload a media file, MP3, .wav. I believe the queues allow up to a 5 megabyte file. Again, you want to record in mono. The pro queues also allow multiple media files, as well as the options to announce the position online or the expected wait time. The queue timeout is how much time your inbound callers can wait on hold. Queue call limit is how many people can wait on hold. Now, this is on top of whoever's already speaking to staff members, right? This is just number of people waiting to speak to staff member. If you set this to 0, that means there's no limit. Timeout immediately if empty. That if you have no staff members logged in and a caller comes into the queue, the system will treat that inbound caller as if they've already hit 3,600 seconds. So, escalation call flow after timeout. So after that 3,600 seconds, what do you want to do with that caller? This is where this pull down comes in. You can send callers to voicemail, another user back to the main menu, a group, a different queue, etc. The zero out to call flow, this allows you to, or allows your inbound callers to press 0 while they wait on hold. If they do that, where are you sending them? Now, if you set it to none, that means they can't press 0, right? The system won't acknowledge it. But from the pull down, once you select something, let's say voicemail, then the inbound callers can press 0 while they're waiting on hold and leave a voicemail. You would probably need to tell them that as part of the hold music at some point. Agent behavior. So agent recovery time, that means how much time an agent is given after they finish one queue call before the system offers them a second queue call. Right? So Bob finishes call from the queue, gets hang up tone time, right? Hang up tone gets through. He goes into recovery mode. In this case, for 15 seconds. After that time, then he can be offered a second call. Now, force away on reject or missed. If an agent misses a call, then the system will put them in away mode automatically. They have to mark themselves ready to take calls. And then agent connect timeout, measured in seconds, in this case 20. That's the default time, because by default, you should be using VoIP devices to answer calls in a queue. Once you have queues created, over here on the left, you click on the little members icon. This is a list of people I have available among my staff to be in queues. Doesn't mean they're assigned to them yet, but they can be. Up here, I click Manage Members. Right, so now these are my other staff members. I click on their name, and I can move them over. Right, and now you see GeoTest is over here. I could also click on someone and remove them. Go back to the queues page. We'll click here. If you click agents, right, so now you can add available people over to be an agent, and then click on Save Changes. Managers, this takes you from that list of your staff members who are assigned to this specific queue. If you move them over to the right, click and drag on Save Changes. So now I just made Josh a manager of this specific queue. All right, let's refresh this here. Now, for my staff members who are assigned to queues, once I've assigned them under the members page, right, I moved them over to the right, they lose the D&D toggle the next time they log in. Now, they'd want to go, when they log into Dash, they click on ACD queues, they come here. So first, they click on Begin Session. Right, by default, the system puts them out of away mode. Then they need to click on the little phone icon here. They need, from this pull down, they need to select a device. Specifically, they should select a VoIP device. Click on the little phone icon here. Let's expand this. Right, so I've already logged in. That's why I'm in my queues that I'm assigned to, but I'm away, right, up here by my status. I click on my status bar again. I mark myself as ready. So now I'm green, meaning ready to take calls on that specific device. Now, when I'm offered a call in the queue, I will turn light blue. When I'm on a connected in queue call, I'll turn a dark blue. If I'm on an external call, meaning someone called extension number directly, or let's say I called a customer back, I'll turn yellow. And then when I'm on wrap-up time, I'd be a gold. Dynamic caller ID is a plan-specific feature. This allows you to create rules to change the outbound caller ID for your VoIP phone users. Look at it here on this one here. So you give it a name, you choose a phone number on your account, and then you choose, in this case, a rule. So I'm saying whenever my staff members dial a 408 phone number, the system will automatically change their outbound caller ID to this phone number. All right, the other way to do it, oops, this one here, is I created a feature code. So now my staff members have to, if they dial *550, then enter area code and phone number that they dial out to, the system will automatically change their outbound caller ID to this 323 phone number. So for the feature codes, I do recommend using *, then 3 digits. So that way you're not going to make a conflicting feature code with ones that are already on the system. Monitor, another plan-specific feature. This allows you to see the status of your staff members. Doesn't matter what phone they're using, as long as it's on their user, the system will show if they're on a call with that device. Under active inbound calls over here on the left, right, each individual active inbound call will have its own box. And the park calls, if someone's parked, the parking spot number will also show up here. A recording manager can take you to 2 different places depending on your setup. The default, it will open up a new tab and take you to recordings.virtualpbx.com. You'll need your Dash login information to log into that site. You can then view your call recordings there. If, however, you have set up AWS on the account and you've linked your Dash account to your AWS account, then the recording manager will take you to your AWS page to show your call recordings there. The reason you would want to use AWS is because you have a high amount of call volume and you're recording every call. And their storage pricing, and especially at volume, is much better than ours. Webhooks, plan-specific feature. You actually want to talk to our sales team about this. This allows you to link Dash to other software, say Zapier, for example, among others. So basically, you would click on, new hook. This is programming, right? This is beyond what I'm capable of doing. But basically, you create it here, you tie it to, say, Zapier on the other end. So then you're sending data from, say, your Dash account to Zapier to then process in some fashion. We do have a webinar on our YouTube channel, an introduction to Zapier, which will cover some of what you can do. You can also go to developer.virtualpbx.com to see sample code of what we have done in terms of linking Dash to other software. And then lastly, we have the user portal. Every user has their own individual user portal. As an admin, you can't access anyone else's user portal. So the voicemail tab will show them any voicemails they have in their voicemail box, date, time, etc. Now, if you set their voicemail box to delete after notification, there won't be anything here. Call history, your staff members can view their call history. They can change the date range. Fax tab will only work if they have their own fax box. The contact list tab shows the Dash account contacts, right? So other users, their extensions, auto attendants, groups, etc. It's not something they can edit, right? This is a view only thing for your staff members. Conference tab shows up for any user that you've enabled conferencing for. Over here to the right is where they would adjust their PIN numbers for themselves, right, as a moderator, as well as the PIN number for their participants. They can choose to have people join muted or deafened, as well as play entry and exit tones. While they're in a conference, up here, they can invite other Dash users to their conference, right, like a reminder. They can lock a conference so other people cannot join. They can mute everybody, unmute everybody, or end the conference call completely. Also, while they're in a conference, each moderator has their own box, each participant has their own box. That means you can mute specific people or kick them out. And then we have the Settings and Devices tab. This is where your users would enable call forwarding on their own. Put a little check mark here. Then they put +1 area code and phone number. They click on Save Changes. Now call forwarding is on. And here they can see the status of their devices. And that is everything. Haven't seen any questions come up here, so I'm going to go ahead and end the stream. I thank you for your time today. Again, this is recorded, so you can come back and watch it anytime, or send the link to your other staff members who may need to be admins on the account. Other than that, we will be here next Tuesday at 10 a.m. Pacific. Have a great day.